Hi there, welcome to the Business Connectors. Michael Griffiths here. Great to have you on this episode. I'm here with Socrates Jimenez. Hopefully I've got that right. That's certainly the hardest surname I've had so far with our guest. And Socrates, you're from Hamilton Partners, and we're going to find out more about Hamilton Partners very shortly. But Socrates, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey and from the US and found your way out here to Australia. But tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. First of all, you hit it right on with the with my surname, but its accent indicates I'm an American by origin. I grew up in New York, and did all of most of my career has been working in the U.S. But have gotten this pretty unique opportunity to come to Australia. By way of background, generally I've had a fairly long career, although I'm trying to not show it anymore. But I've had about over 25 years of experience, generally in the financial services area as well as in corporate operations. During that time in the financial services area, generally in the investment banking circuit, if you will. I started out as a young guy in New York, really much working with corporates and helping them raise capital, dealing with mergers, acquisitions, valuations, those sorts of advisory assignments. But as the career progressed, generally started moving towards, the west coast of the U.S., but more towards where my passion lies, which is working with small, medium-sized businesses in addressing the same needs that these big corporates did. The thing that was a little different there was just that, frankly, those assignments tended to be much more consultative before that transaction occurred. So that means it was about sitting down with entrepreneurs and senior management teams and really understanding their businesses, really figuring out what works, where they're targeting, and essentially contributing to creating that story where that transaction occurred. In addition, in the latter part of my career, I've had many opportunities now to actually take that into corporate life. That is, to the point where, rather than always being on the advising side, at that point was able to actually roll up your sleeves and put what you've learned in the past in the books to work. And I've had several very senior management positions operating in the CFO, COO sort of areas, and eventually that took me around the world with global projects and business development and building up infrastructure, and it was very interesting. And where I'm at today, and this is where Hamilton Partners comes in, is that I've been actually afforded a great opportunity to not only come into a geography that I love, but also to now start looking at businesses, again, in the small to medium size area, and some more mature businesses, because I think every business needs to continually be improving. But to actually now leverage this 25 years of both finance and operations and really start helping people really move forward in achieving their objectives. So I'm really excited about being in the country and I'm really excited about being here.
Fantastic, and what a great extent of knowledge there. So Hamilton Partners, tell us a little bit more about what they actually do.
Well, they in general, it's an organization that's primarily my vehicle to provide these independent consulting services. I do have a number of partners that I draw into a particular situation once we've gotten through initial business advisory sort of exercises where special skills and more specialities are involved. It's basically a consultancy. It's focused on business advisory services. So that is, when you're thinking about what sometimes becomes organized chaos within a business, that is, you've been so successful that you haven't had a chance to really take a step back and figure out, why is it that I've been successful? What do I need to do to continue this success? And what do I need to do in terms of thinking about what this business can become? Generally, that's where I step in. And what I generally have found in the past is it's an event that happens. Suddenly you need to really present that marketing brief. You need to access a partner. You need to raise capital. Those type of events that force you and require you to actually be able to frame your business in a way that others can appreciate, so that we bring it out of the entrepreneur's head.
Yep.
And basically put it onto a piece of paper or presentation where you have now something to benchmark against and demonstrate to others the successes that you've had, and address some of the challenges that are that are coming, particularly in this very fast changing environment.
Yeah, so true. Which leads us very nicely to what sort of trends are you seeing at the moment that our listeners who are mainly business owners who watch this, what sort of trends do you see from the levels that you operate that can our business owners can find out about also?
Well, listen, I'm a pretty pragmatic guy, right? I mean, and I've had a very, I've had some unique opportunities to obviously work hand in hand and actually to be that operator. And sometimes you feel, am I the only person that's feeling this? But one of the trends that are going on is an acknowledgement that, listen, its costs are going up. Business, the cost of doing business is not going down. I think, certainly in this country as well as around the world, wages have more than doubled over the last 5-10 years. Listen, the cost of just walking in the door and turning on the lights, the utilities here have gone up. So that means that these are all again items that sometimes we don't think about in the broad terms, but these are things that force you to really take a step back, or you should take a step back and really figure out, what is this business doing? How are we really positioning? What is it that I need to do? Where do I need to spend? Where do I need to not spend? It also forces the question of, why am I doing, why am I in this business? Is this a lifestyle business, which is going to drive a set of costs that perhaps you have or shouldn't have? Or am I doing this for strategic reasons, in which case I need to make sort of different sorts of investments there. So I think what you'll find, and I find the thematic throughout most things, where I'm working with customers or clients or partnering with them, I'd like to, because that's how I feel about it, is it brings them back to really defining who and what they are. I think another big trend that may seem obvious to everyone, but I think we need to start internalizing these things, is the impact of technology on our businesses. It is incredible where the internet is clearly a channel that's here, that's come very fast, and it's here to stay. Other things within that, things like the cloud. How are we interacting? How are we bringing? How are we helping ourselves to bring our costs down? But also, how are our customers in terms of how they consume either a product or a service? How they're doing? Are we addressing those needs? So again, pointing back to what greater definition you need in terms of how I'm going to drive a business. I think an interesting one, which is always tricky, is also this trend towards offshoring.
Yep.
I think listen, I'm a first. I live here, and I want to see this country produce, and I want to see this country grow economically. But as all of your viewers and everyone knows, sometimes we have to look at what some of the realities are. And there are opportunities on the revenue side as we can now have facilities through partnerships and others to export what otherwise you'd think, it's only available, or I should target Australia. But now it enables us to think about our target markets being beyond our shores. And then on the cost side of things, I think it is unbelievable how many opportunities there really are to outsource services, outsource human capital, all across, ranging from PAs all the way through to your accounting, to the other. And again, don't advocate that as first step, but depending on where you are in your state of progress, it's important. And again, another thematic for me in general is to know who you are.
Yeah, great, and so true in so many of those things. And when you think that in the last couple of years, how many apps, how many programs, how many things have been created that just make our lives so much easier, and allows us to be able to communicate with people literally all around the globe with just a simple push of a few buttons. There's
no question. And I think one of the things that we also have to keep in mind is not only how we communicate out, but how internally people are communicating internal to your own organizations. And it's very, very interesting how, if you start looking at statistics about the high percentage of people who, frankly carry their smartphones and have all of those capabilities, yet they walk into work and they don't they can't interface with that. And in fact, a lot of times you find that they go ahead and do that outside of your planning, which again, you want to talk about where you're starting to see cost leakages and those things. It's when, frankly, sometimes we're not as organized as managers, and we're not listening to what's coming from within.
Yeah, no, so true. So I know you're very much a big process systems guy. It's something that you love. It's probably something where I sometimes fall down and go, I'll worry about that later, where I know that's always at the forefront of your mind. So for our listeners, what's some insights or some tips to help people become a little bit more systematic or a little bit more process driven that makes their business more efficient?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's such a large, large area. I usually take it back to some of the tenets that what we've even talked about. I think before you attack any sort of a system and or process, I think we have to always take a step back. And I think knowing who you are is really, really important. I think also knowing what you don't know. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but listen, we all have our strengths, and those strengths are what carried us to where we are. And businesses get there because you're either a great technologist, you're a great operator, you're a great research person, and then you get to that point where you need to figure out how to get to the next level, and you're trying to apply what you know to an area that you don't. And that's what usually results in systems that sometimes you get led by brand names that bring products that have more bells and whistles than you really need, where you have suddenly you're ready to be a $100 million company and you're driving $5 million in revenue. So I think taking a step back to really figure out, again, who you are, which is going to drive what you implement. And I think in terms of processes, I think it's being open. I think one of the things that I see all of the time is that even though it's a small company of 10 people, they don't talk to each other. Employees are in silos. They don't leverage the knowledge base that's at the point of customer presence. So I think it's about understanding, again, who you are, but then understanding who your organization, who your people are, and leveraging them. And then once you have a sense of that, then how the systems that you implement, the processes that are more inclusive that come from that, suddenly get you to a much higher productivity level.
Brilliant. What a great amount of insight. That was fantastic. And for a lot of business owners listening, especially if you've just started off, some of that might have just gone straight over your head. I know when I first spoke with Socrates over 12 months ago, it blew my mind the amount of knowledge and IP that's sitting in your head that you've got the ability to help with people. So I really encourage you to connect with Socrates on LinkedIn. He's another great person with a great network who's really enjoys being able to help other people grow their networks through his own network. So I encourage you to do that and ensure that you have a bit of a look. It's Hamilton partners.com.
That's correct.
And you will see that also from our Village Entrepreneur main page. So make sure that you connect there. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us today. It's fantastic to be able to get those sorts of insights, and I'm sure our listeners have really appreciated hearing some of those things. So thank you very much for joining us. But till next time, hope you've really enjoyed that episode. It certainly was very enlightening for myself also, and we will see you at an event hopefully very soon. Take care. Have a great rest of the week.